start back being cool. So she want to know why you blocked her.
I seen how y'all was going. I was like, I'm not even part of it.
But you know what, Scrap? I will tell you this. You're wrong because you was flirting with her for a very long time.
You said I was flirting with her?
Why was that wrong?
Show it.
Don't flirt with the eye. Don't go with the friends. Don't go with the beautiful circle.
I just want everybody to know.
Now that Bambi has finally spoken up about Scrappy's sad suicide attempt, the entertainment industry is in shock. Fans were demanding a statement from Bambi in the days following the horrific incident where Scrappy was found unconscious in his home, and she finally responded with tears in her eyes and prayers flooding in. Everyone is shocked at Bambi's response. Despite their rocky past, Bambi has been very affected by Scrappy's situation, according to sources close to her. She is asking followers to keep him in their prayers in the hopes that he recovers quickly. Full recovery, but is this just a concern or is there more to it? Will this tragedy lead to their reunion? And more importantly, will Bambi still feel something for Scrappy? As we examine Bambi's reaction, Scrappy's present situation, and the emotional roller coaster that has left fans stunned, stay tuned. With the weight of his emotions bearing down on him like a crushing force, Scrappy sat in his darkly lit room with his phone vibrating nonstop and messages from friends, family, and admirers flooding in. Although everyone was concerned, no one could fill the void that had. The once vivacious Scrappy, who was renowned for his vivacity and charm, had been engulfed in thoughts of the love he had lost ever since Bambi left. He now stared blankly at the walls. Mama D had made every effort to help Scrap happy, including calling, paying him a visit, and even making him sit down and talk about how he felt. He was torn apart by the thought of Bambi continuing to live her life without him. Although he had always been a fighter and had faced obstacles head-on, this time was different. He didn't know how to win the battle. The myth started to spread after Scrappy shared it. His heart was thumping in his chest as he confessed, "I don't know how to do this without you." When Scrappy contacted Bambi in the middle of the night, his voice shook as he spoke his feelings honestly and unvarnished. Fans and friends were clamoring on the internet to find out what was happening, but Scrappy said nothing. Despite her empathy, Bambi maintained her firmness. "This cannot continue. I must find my serenity, and you must find yours." After the call ended, Scrappy sat there feeling lost and irreparably shattered, moving his phone and shaking his hand. Diamond, Scrappy's close buddy and fellow rapper, showed up at his residence the next morning after getting a series of concerning texts. She was horrified by what she found. Scrappy was hardly conscious, his body was frail, his face was pale, and the empty bottles strewn all over the floor were a chilling reminder of his desperation. Diamond became immediately concerned. Social media went into overdrive as soon as the news emerged. Even his former collaborators came forward to show their love and concern, and fans started flooding timelines with messages of optimism and support for the music business. Inside the hospital room, Mama D remained at Scrappy's side, her hands clenched together as she whispered, while he lay unconscious with the machine tracking his vitals beeping regularly. With trembling hands, she dialed 911, pleading for assistance. Paramedics quickly arrived and took Scrappy to the hospital. Everyone was waiting for an update, a sign that Scrappy would survive, but the tension in the air was choking them. Then, at last, there was movement, a gradual blink, a tiny whisper. Scrappy was waking up. The awful was far from over, but there was a noticeable sense of relief in the room. The emotional scars were deep, and the anguish of losing Bambi still hung over Scrappy as she pleaded in private, "Lord, don't take my baby." Her journey to recovery would be a long and difficult one. Social media was inundated with condolence and worry messages from both fans and celebrities as word of Scrappy's hospitalization spread. But there was one voice that everyone was eager to hear: Bambi. Speculation that she was ignoring the situation, didn't care, or was dealing with feelings she wasn't ready to express was only strengthened by her quiet. Bambi didn't eventually express her opinions in a simple yet powerful Instagram post until late at night. Despite their distance from one another, Bambi's close pals disclosed that the news had upset her. Since she and Scrappy had experienced years of love, passion and hardship together, she never wished him harm. According to insiders, Bambi had been attempting to contact Scrappy's family in a last-ditch effort to give them updates, despite the fact that their paths had parted. The message said, praying for Scrappy and wishing him strength and healing, with a black backdrop and white lettering. Everyone was examining every word and emoji on the internet as a result this. Over Scrappy's condition, Mama D welcomes the concern at this time over issues that are important to his health, notwithstanding previous conflicts. Allow Bambi to pray for him if she so chooses. She allegedly told a close friend that he needed all the affection he could get. The public's reaction was divided. While some admirers commended Bambi for her maturity and care, others charged her with hypocrisy. Too little, too late, read one comment, while others supported her, stating that no one should seek harm on another despite their own prior issues. When an old video came to light, the dispute got more heated. The footage, which was captured from a tearful interview months prior to their breakup, shows Scrappy crying while acknowledging that his greatest regret was losing Bambi. He uttered the words, "I wish things were different. I still love her," with heightened emotions. Although no one could foresee the future, many conjectured that this tragedy may lead to their reunion and that this was the moment they recognized they still belonged together. But when some doubted her sincerity, claiming that she was the cause of Scrappy's condition. Others spoke up for her, claiming that Bambi didn't have time for the commotion and that nobody truly knew what had transpired behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Scrappy was still weak and unconscious from the overdose inside the hospital room. There was only the beep of the machines in the room, and Mama D would not leave his side, holding his hand and whispering, "Lord, please don't take him away from me." Scrappy's daughter's mother, Erica Dixon, his other ex-girlfriend, sat silently in the corner with her arms folded. With a guilty tone, she said, "We all saw the signs." As the hours passed, we began to doubt that he would truly do this. Tension was high as the rest of the family gathered in the waiting area. Diamond's nails dug into her palms as she paced back and forth. How on earth did things get this ball prepared? The world waited for any further developments, but at last there was activity. Mama D gasped and tightened her grip on Scrappy's hand as his fingers fluttered his eyelids. "Baby, can you hear me?" slowly, weakly, she said. Scrappy opened his eyes and blinked. His head was thumping, his vision was fuzzy, and he tried to talk, but his voice was hardly audible above a whisper due to a dry throat. With a sigh of relief, Mama D kissed his forehead and said, "Thank you, Jesus." However, Scrappy's eyes scanned the room for Bambi, and Mama D hesitated, unsure HOTEL.L. Before she could respond, the door creaked open, and she was standing there with her face inscrutable. She explained to him that Bambi wasn't there because she was dealing with her own emotions, and that she had chosen to pray remotely rather than go to the hospital. Time appeared to stop for a second as their eyes locked. Then she stepped forward cautiously, her heels clicking lightly on the tile floor. With her lips pushed into a narrow line, she paused by the bed and gazed down at him. Her voice was hardly audible above a whisper as she questioned, "Why Scrappy?" With deep emotions, Scrappy gulped hard and asked, "Why would you do this?" "I don't know how to live without you," she said firmly, wiping away the tears that welled up in Bambi's eyes. "You have to find a way," she said, "because this isn't the answer." The room fell silent, the weight of their past, their pain, and their love hanging heavy in the air. Mama D stepped back to give them their moment. This was a long-awaited conversation. Scrap reached for Bambi's hand, but she hesitated before letting him touch her. "I didn't want you to go through this alone," she said, acknowledging her fear and uncertainty up attending dotting. Bambi sighed, finally squeezing his hand, and the doctor soon came in to check on Scrappy and make sure he was stable. Bambi stepped back and watched as they worked, not knowing what the future held for them, but knowing that she wasn't ready to say goodbye just yet. Sometimes we both know that the pain in his eyes is obvious, but he nodded slowly, and I just needed to hear it. When the world continued to watch, waiting for the next chapter in, everyone was worried and asking questions. But no one could comprehend the emptiness that had consumed him since Bambi left the once lively Scrappy, known for his energy and charisma, now staring blankly at the walls, drowning in memories of the love he had. This was an emotional story, and as he lay there recovering, he knew that this was his second chance. The question was, though, what would he do with it? He had always been a fighter, taking on challenges head-on, but this time was different. It wasn't a battle he knew how to win. When Scrappy posted a mysterious message on social media, fans surmised that friends were trying to reach out. Mama D had tried everything, including calling, visiting, and even making Scrappy sit down and talk about his feelings, but nothing seemed to be able to ease his pain. Everyone wanted to know what was going on, but Scrappy kept quiet. Only when close friends disclosed that Scrappy had been suffering from severe depression did the truth come to light. When Scrappy called Bambi in the middle of the night, his voice trembled as he spoke his feelings honestly and unfilteredly. "I don't know how to do this without you," he said, his heart pounding in his chest. But Bambi remained firm despite her sympathy. Scrappy told Bambi that we couldn't continue doing this. "You need to find peace, and I need to find mine." The call ended, and Scrappy sat with his phone in his hands. After receiving a string of menacing texts, Scrappy's close buddy and fellow rapper Diamond showed up at his house the next morning. She was horrified by what she found. Scrappy was hardly conscious. His face was pale, his body was frail, and the empty bottles strewn all over the floor were a chilling reminder of his desperation. In a panic, Diamond dialed 911 right away, pleading for assistance with trembling hands. Paramedics quickly arrived and took Scrappy to the hospital. Social media went bananas as soon as the news was released. Even his ex-boyfriends stepped out to express their love and worry, and fans started to overflow timelines with words of optimism and support for the music business. Scrappy lay unconscious in the hospital room, a machine watching his blood, beeping persistently and unwilling to leave his side. "Lord, don't take my baby," she murmured under her breath while clasping her hands together. But as the hours passed, the anguish of witnessing her son in such a precarious situation became intolerable. The stress in the air was choking everyone as they waited for an update, a sign that Scrappy would survive. And then there was movement, a gradual blink, a tiny whisper. Scrappy was waking up. They had been working nonstop to stabilize him. Relief flooded the room, but the fight was far from done. The sorrow of losing Bambi still hung over him like a black cloud, and the emotional scars were deep. But there was a glimmer of optimism in that moment, surrounded by love and support. Maybe he could find his way back, despite Bambi's silence. "This whole thing has been terrible, regardless of what has happened between us. I never wanted to witness Scrappy in such agony." She wiped a straight tear from her face and inhaled deeply. "All I want is for him to be all right. He has been in my prayers." Bambi eventually spoke up on social media after being silent for days. Her voice started to tremble a little, her face became serious, and her eyes grew emotional. "Because Scrappy has a nice heart despite everything, I hope he finds the strength to keep going. I'm confident that he can overcome this as well because he's been through a lot." Fans were relieved to hear Bambi discuss the problem in the comment area, while some defended her, telling everyone that breakups are never easy and that no one person is to blame for another's troubles. Others condemned her, accusing her of being responsible for Scrappy's decline. Also speaking out, Scrappy's close friends urged people to respect Bambi and Scrappy's privacy. As Scrappy slowly regained his strength, Bambi reached out in private. One friend wrote, "Scrappy needs support, not judgment. Let's lift him up, not tear anyone down." A person with knowledge of the situation claims that she called Mama D to inquire about any updates and to let him know how much she cares about him despite her fear of being unable to be with him. Although Scrappy needed rest, the doctors certified that he was stable. This will take time. His mental and emotional health is now the main concern. Supporters of Scrappy continue to unite, giving messages of fans and loved ones are supporting Scrappy and hoping for a full recovery as the awful situation continues to unfold. Many people, including colleagues in the music industry and even former rivals, have expressed their concern and prayers for Bambi's recovery in response to his emotional outburst. Love and support hashtag Stay Strong as a hashtag. Days of popularity for Scrappy demonstrated how well liked he was by the general populace. A tiny grin appeared on Scrappy's lips as he lay in his hospital bed, reading the innumerable words of support, indicating that he wasn't as isolated as he had believed. Have put aside arguments to provide Scrappy with steadfast support during his most trying time, but what do you think? Is Scrappy and Bambi's chapter really over, or do you think this will strengthen their bond? We would love to hear your opinions, so please leave them in the comments box below. Follow the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications if you want to stay up to date on this emotional roller coaster. This will ensure that you don't miss any updates on the narrative as it develops. With so many people supporting him, Scrappy's journey is far from over, and there is yet hope for a brighter future. I hope everyone has the best possible outcome, and I'm sending those prayers. Watch for updates, but in the meanwhile, use caution and stay safe.